Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to interact with you. So make sure to swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join in the conversation on social media. The accounts are all right there, except one right now, because we are the newest members of Hive. So if you're just signing up for that platform, because it is kind of exploding right now, as a, can we say, an alternative to Twitter?
Yeah.
So we are still staying on Twitter, just to kind of clarify. I know some people have been asking, but we just made a Hive account, so we're there, and everything can just be found at ODPH Podcast. It's on more or less all the socials except Facebook. But see, that's why we put the links right on the page, so you can just click on it. Also, you can click on the TeePublic store, which, I mean, is always a perfect time to go get some stuff, especially for Black Friday. Just kind of put it out there. If you're always looking to get some ODPH swag, it's the perfect time to do it. Also, the Patreon link, one tier, $2 a month, and a whole lot of content coming. We gave you, the general public, our bonus episode this month for free. Just kind of a little taster of what we do, and it's breaking down Do a Power Bomb by Daniel Warren Johnson, the great Image comic right now. So myself and Marty from the Panel to Panel podcast was talking about it. It's a great episode. You want to go check it out? And if you want more exclusive content like that, it's simple. You just sign up for the Patreon, and boom, there it is. Also, Parlay Points blog section, the directory, which, Pat, how many providers are we on?
122,000.
Sounds about right to me. The classified section, which has friends of the show such as 3FN Podcasts, organizational links supporting Black Lives Matter, and a whole lot more. So we just keep it very short and very sweet for anything and everything that is the ODPH. It can be found at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on social media, use the hashtag ODPHpod. Kicking off this edition of the show, there is one event that happened this past weekend that, do we say, really kind of put into perspective what a journey it has been since day one for a show that rolled out of the pages of Image Comics and really took pop culture by storm. And when it got onto AMC television, I don't think anybody was expecting it to be this big of a hit and last 11 seasons. But yet, Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead has led that charge and really carved its own niche into pop culture.
Yeah.
Like, you can't take it away. For a time being, it was the show on TV.
Yeah, there were some weeks, especially in the kind of early mid-seasons, where it was going head-to-head and sometimes beating Sunday Night Football, which is the ratings juggernaut that is on Sunday nights during the NFL football season, which is hard to do.
Oh, it's absolutely hard to do.
Typically, you know, outside of when The Walking Dead did it, about the only thing that beats Sunday Night Football or comes close to beating Sunday Night Football is if there's some sort of like award show or something on.
Yeah.
You know, that's about the only thing.
Yeah, it usually would run unopposed for how the fans were just diving into it. Like I say, it's kind of crazy to think about in pop culture terms, but just kind of put in perspective. For a moment in time, like, Walking Dead literally shut down social media.
Yeah.
Everybody was watching it. This is what turned Norman Reedus into a mega star that everybody's waiting to see what he does now. Denai Guerrera, Andrew Lincoln, you know, John Bernthal, who guys, I don't want to say he got to start there, but definitely got on the radar. Definitely got on the radar there. So all these stars that have walked through the land of Alexandria have really taken that and ran with it to now where this show is. It's truly astonishing to see, because comic book shows usually don't cross over this well.
No, I mean, and this was such a unique show for its time that, you know, you hear all the time from folks who work on shows that, oh, did you ever think it'd last this long? And of course, they're all going to say no.
Yeah.
But I think this is a genuine, when they say no, they didn't think it was going to last as long as it did. Just because, yeah, it's on AMC, so it's not on, you know, basic cable. It's not on, you know, CBS, Fox, NBC, ABC. You know, so, but just how violent it was and just how graphic it was, that I'm sure in the back of their mind, there was some stuff they were seeing when they were doing the practical effects that they're watching going, holy shit, this is going to get us kicked off the air.
Well, I think AMC and cable in general is more willing to take a shot with a show like this.
Yes.
And I think for AMC, and I'll give them their kudos for this, to really try going into a very dark and depressing story, such as The Walking Dead and the saga of Rick Grimes, it doesn't really hold back a lot of punches.
No.
The comic is much worse in its graphic nature
Yes.
than the TV show ever was.
Yes.
But for AMC to bring it to the mainstream audience and really not tone anything down the first couple of seasons is a true testament that they fully believed in what they were presenting to the public. And you don't see that a lot of times, in my opinion anyway.
No.
I think a lot of times that we're more worried about making money off stuff that we get away from the artistic perception. And for this show, if they tried watering it down any which way, I don't think it would have worked.
Right.
I think it was just the perfect time that a simple zombie apocalyptic story was presented to the masses and everybody was eating it up. It gets to a point, though, as it's gone on in its seasons, of how much it followed the books.
Right.
And as we touched upon, the books are very intense reads.
Yeah.
They don't hold anything back.
No.
They're not for the squeamish or the sensitive, if you will.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of moments in the comic that really push some boundaries.
Let's say if you thought it was crazy what happened to Lori in the TV show, you should read what happens to her in the comics.
Facts. Yeah, that scene is absolutely...
If you had issues with what happened to Glenn, yeah, read what happened to Lori.
Well, you know what? I love how you brought up about Glenn, because I think that when we start talking about his death on the show, and Stephen Yeun, who played him since the beginning, really won over fans. But we all knew, if you read the comics, the comic fans that we are, we all knew that Glenn was on borrowed time.
And you and I had conversations of, just given how graphic it was in the comics, about how the hell are they going to do this? Because they get away with a lot in the show, but we didn't think they'd be able to pull that moment off. And we finally get to the episode, and it's a shot for shot with a couple of little changes, you know. But in terms of what happens to Glenn and some of the close-ups of Glenn's face, it's a shot-for-shot recreation of the comic.
Yeah. And it's one that they didn't pull back at all. Like, that's the one crazy thing about it, is they kept it so graphic to the comic. Not to do it for sensationalism, but they kept it so graphic because they really wanted to try finding the temp in the room, so to speak, with the audience. That they have had some gory deaths on the show. But seeing what Negan did to Glenn, and it was panel to panel. It was legit. We knew, so we weren't shocked. I think for the mainstream audience, though, when they saw it, it was a very, very cold dose of reality.
I think we were just a little shocked, and it wasn't from an holy shit, we can't believe what's happening. It was more, holy shit, they did it shot for shot.
Yeah.
And they actually did it.
Well, that's where you and I were.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of the mainstream audience, when they got to season 7's premiere and did this, that was the moment that I think a lot of fans, I don't want to say got tuned off.
It is.
But they got really...
A lot of fans left.
They got really shocked because one of their favorites, and like I say, Glenn was a very popular character. When he got killed off in the way he did, I don't think a lot of fans were ready for it because they had kind of played it a little safe with certain characters that were that popular.
Yeah.
Daryl Dixon comes to mind.
Daryl was supposed to be a couple episodes, one season character, and then just because of how popular he was, they kept him around.
Yeah.
He's not, folks, he's not in the comics. He's not in any of the video games, although there is that shitty one from Activision.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that one.
We don't talk about that. But in terms of the source material comics, he's not in them at all. There's not even a passing mention of a guy with a crossbow causing havoc in some other part of the country. You know, so he's a completely unique character to this world, to this show.
The only thing that he's ever came close to the comics was a cover.
Okay.
I want to say it was an alternate cover for the last issue. Don't quote me on this, for exacts, but obviously hit me up on that hashtag and let me know. I'm like 90% sure, though. But you're right. So the show was really kind of listening to the pop culture audience, but when they started going back to the comics after the last few seasons there, 5 and 6, were not I don't want to say well received,
Mm-hmm.
but they started getting away from what made the show the show.
Yeah.
You know, when you start getting away from the story that was getting told in the comics, when they tried pulling the massive U-turn and obviously introducing Jeffrey D. Morgan as Negan,
Right.
fans weren't ready. And I think a lot of them dropped off. We've touched upon this many times. And I think that they weren't ready for what happened with Glenn, and thus it was the dose of reality. Like, the books are going to start following suit. Sure, they've had other characters come and go since then.
Right.
But that was the kind of the tipping point that to get to where they are now 4 seasons later, and it's kind of crazy to think that it's only been 4 seasons
Right.
since that. It goes to show about how much the fan base stayed with the show, and it's not as big as it once was, but everybody really was interested to see how these characters were surviving.
I mean, we're talking about fans leaving, but just to give you some firm numbers, the Walking Dead season 1 or season 7 premiere garnered, and this is in the U.S., 17.03 million viewers. Episode 2, which aired the following week, garnered 12.46 million viewers.
That's crazy.
Which, that's normal for a show to drop off a little bit from premiere to episode 2, but for 5 million to drop, and then the following week after that, episode 3 was 11.72. You know, to drop, 6 million viewers in 2 weeks, 3 weeks is a lot.
It's a lot, but this also shows who reads the comics and who didn't.
Oh, yeah.
And like we say, when everybody came on board on Halloween 2010 to watch the first episode, I don't think they thought their favorite characters were going to get killed off. I mean,
No.
they were playing it safe for a lot of those seasons.
No, they were, and it was a lot of secondary characters, They were a part of the main cast and part of the main group, but it wasn't like, in terms of the tier list, they weren't the A tier or S tier characters.
Yeah. There's only been a couple that were following suit to the comic, but then when they got away from it, I think fans had that false sense of hope that everybody would be okay. But the Negan Glenn death was the tipping point.
Well, because outside of Game of Thrones, I don't think there's ever been a show that kills off its main characters and no matter what you say about their ranking, whether they're main or secondary characters, I don't think there's any show outside of Game of Thrones, that killed off their characters like Walking Dead did in those early seasons.
Yeah, the early seasons, no, they definitely were setting precedent because everybody's tuning in to see who would get killed off, who would survive. But once that wore off on the public, that's where I think the show started changing a little bit in its popularity. But much like anything in pop culture, things go in waves.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were at their height, they were at their height. After they got tuned out when Glenn died, the fan base was still there, but not as popular.
Well, and just keeping, a fan base engaged and hooked on for that long when, let's face it, the show premiered in 2010, keeping a fan base enticed and hooked on for 12 years is a hell of a task.
Oh, it's an amazing task.
So obviously the numbers aren't what they were at the height of the show, but I don't think they ever were going to be once it started getting as long as it did, just because times change, people move on, their interests change, what they're into changes. So you might have been on, someone listening might have been into the show seasons 2, 3, 4 because, hey, you're in college, you're in a dorm room with a group of folks who really like the show, and you know what? There's only one TV in the dorm room, so you're going to watch it together.
Yeah.
But once you got out of college, you know what? I'm living on my own. I got work going on. I got personal life going on. I just don't got time for it. I just was never that into it. Shit happens.
No, it definitely does. I mean, that's something that when you hear about any show making it past 5 years, to be honest with you, it's a milestone. Like, it always kind of blows my mind when you think about, in comparison, like Supernatural.
Sure.
And how many seasons that lasted on the CW.
Oh, yeah.
And they've had moments where they could end it off where it was fitting. And, I mean, obviously, they're kind of rolling out the spinoff there with the Winchesters. But it's a testament to the fans that stick by this, that really carry it through. And then when you do those big finales, do they meet the expectations?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one situation that I think The Walking Dead had a little bit of a challenge with.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that they have done, and if you're a long-time listener to the ODPH, you know we've called them out about this. When they tipped off about spinoffs, I really think that hurt this season. I think it hurt it tremendously.
Well, and just the pattern, because they would in prior early seasons, they wouldn't tip off anybody's going to leave.
Right.
You wouldn't find out. The only tip off you would get that something's happening is in a commercial break. They'd talk about who's coming up on Talking Dead, which was the talk show they had after each episode with Chris Hardwick, and either somebody from the crew, somebody from the cast, and either another cast or crew. And then if, it wasn't that, it was some sort of celebrity who was a fan of the show. Yvette Nicole Brown was on a whole bunch. But the only tip-off we would get that something's going to happen was they'd say, coming up on Talking Dead after the episode, Chris Hardwick sits down with Greg Nicotero, Yvette Nicole Brown, and a surprise guest. And it's like, well, fuck, somebody might die this episode. Mm-hmm. That was the only clue we got up until whatever season it was where Andrew Lincoln left the show, where the season went to premiere in its usual October slot, and in like August or September, they announced Andrew Lincoln's leaving the show.
Wasn't it at San Diego Comic-Con?
It was something. It was long before the season premiered.
Right.
But they tipped it. They said, at some point this season, Andrew Lincoln is going to be leaving the show. And we were sitting here going, is this a ratings play? Are they just trying to drive the ratings back up? And then they outright said the week of the episode, this is the episode where Andrew Lincoln leaves.
Yeah.
And then they started doing it for other characters. And then, like you said, with the last couple of years, we're doing spinoffs with Maggie and Negan. Well, shit, now we know Maggie and Negan are going to make it out of there. We're doing a spinoff with Daryl and Carol. Just kidding, now we're doing just Daryl. Well, Daryl's going to survive.
Yeah. Once you start throwing that in there, it took away some of the mystery of the show. And I really think that hurts it overall. It's not to say it has been a bad season, but I think for where you go into a final season, all bets are off. It's done after this.
It didn't reach the expectations of what it could have been.
Right. And I think they drug it out with 24 episodes broken down into eight episode runs.
It's essentially 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Because I think their seasons in the past have been like 12, 13, 14.
13 episodes.
13. So it's essentially 2 seasons worth.
Exactly.
That's why they said, we're doing one final season and 24 episodes. And I'm like, okay, so it's really 2 seasons.
So it's been a long, strange trip since Rick Grimes woke up in that hospital and the world changed after he was shot. And whoa, the story that has unfolded since.
I still blame Walter White's meth.
It could be. I'm waiting for that tie-in to
happen.
Fun
fan theory.
But nevertheless, here we are all these years later, and we reach the end. So we are going to be talking about spoilers of episode 24, number 177 in the series of The Walking Dead, entitled Rest in Peace. If you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, hey, thank you for checking us out. We do appreciate it. We give a spoiler-free statement about the episode, and then we give you a countdown, and that is fair warning. We go into spoilers. So if you're not ready for a deep discussion of it, we give you fair enough time to bounce out, watch the episode, and come back, and then we have those conversations with everybody. So that being said, Pad, what is your spoiler-free statement about the finale of The Walking Dead?
In terms of a series finale, it was okay. I wouldn't put it in the pantheon of the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, perfect endings to a series. But then again, I don't think it ever was going to be perfect just because those were wrapped up in a bow so neatly that you knew it was the end. And for The Walking Dead, obviously it's not the end. We've got the Fear the Walking Dead's coming back. We've got the Negan Maggie story. We've got the Daryl story. We've got the Rick and Michonne miniseries coming. So obviously this isn't the end. But in terms of like the end of a season finale, it was all right. It wasn't one of their better ones. They've had better. But I still enjoyed it for what it was. There was some stuff that was a little confusing, and it felt like at times they were just kind of throwing stuff against the wall just for the sake of throwing it against a wall. But at the end of the day, it was all right.
On a scale of Dexter last season, not the reboot, and Breaking Bad, this is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most honest I can say about it. Was this great? No.
It had its moments.
It had moments. But once again, the fact it was tipped off about spinoffs, and we're not talking about the Fear the Walking Dead, which is arguably taken over as the flagship show a few seasons ago now. We are talking about you knew certain characters were going to survive. So you can't tease them getting killed off or something bad happening to them if you know they're going to be in a show moving forward. And I think that is just a situation for like Lauren Cohen's Maggie, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Negan, Daryl Dixon, or Norman Reedus as Daryl Dixon, you knew those characters were safe. So anytime you saw them on screen, it kind of took away from that.
Right.
And I think a lot of their time during this episode was to build for what's coming. And I don't think that that was fair to where you should have just tied off things with the universe you built.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you were trying to use this for a stepping stone, I get why, but I don't agree with it. But it wasn't a terrible episode.
Yeah.
I think there was a couple of things they could have done a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they want to leave it where it was just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there was like a real closure feeling to this.
It was definitely written in such a way that should they want to come back and restart the mainline series in however many years, they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't necessarily written in the, if we're talking video game ending, this isn't the bad ending where like everybody dies, there's no survivors left, and the end shot is, just walkers as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
This was kind of like the good ending where it's like, okay, we lost some people, but people are still alive and we're in this kind of happy place. I agree with you. It was definitely written in such a way where the ending left it like, okay, if we want to come back and revisit this, we have an avenue to do so and we don't have to write some bullshit to get us back in here.
Exactly. So that said, it's countdown time. 3, 2, 1. Pad. Really talk to me.
Like I said, I thought the episode was okay. It had its moments. The action sequences were good. There was stuff that was confusing. The chase sequence, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
that was confusing to us, until we realized, oh wait, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
But like I said, in terms of, a season finale, it was okay. In terms of a series finale, it was not as good.
I agree. Like, there are moments where things were good.
Yeah.
But overall, it didn't have a special feel. Like, I know we've talked about this. I'm going to make a wrestling comparison to this.
Sure.
You know how when we have mentioned WWE's rival company,
yeah,
and they only run 4 pay-per-views a year,
yeah,
and they do mini shows in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, when you get to a pay-per-view, you should make it feel special.
Yep.
Like something should stand out.
Yep.
Like something should be like, okay. This really just felt like another episode. Like, sure, there's a couple things that happened at the end, but it didn't really have that gravity like, okay, it's over. Like,
right.
Like the comparison I'll make with another TV show is like Supernatural's finale. Okay. I know you never really kind of got into
I've seen episodes.
To the latter years, but what they did is you had the definite closure moment.
Yeah.
Things made sense. You paid the nice tribute to the fans, and then you moved on.
Sure.
Like to wherever everybody's going to go from here. You didn't have that here.
Right.
You just had this go on like a normal episode, and that drove me nuts.
Yeah, I mean, for me, shows like this, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, when that eventually ends, Vikings, Last Kingdom, any of these kind of like sci-fi fantasy, fighting violence shows. I like my season finales where shit hits the fan. There's some sort of big conflict where everybody's involved. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. And then you get the payoff or the resolution of that season's story. This one, we got that to a point, but then it felt like the ending was like a sitcom series finale, like a Boy Meets World or Friends or, Frasier, take your pick, where it's like, oh, we're all just hunky-dory palling around, on having Thanksgiving, which, okay, fine. Like, I get for the final shot or the last little bit, but they spent so much time on it.
Yeah. This had, I was almost waiting to see if Robert Kirkman was going to wake up a la Bob Newhart.
Oh, jeez.
And it was all a dream the entire time.
I made that joke to somebody, but I was kidding.
I was dead ass serious. I thought he was going to do it because what you got with this show is the survivors that originally started out in Atlanta have now congregated up to
Virginia.
Yeah. And they've now lost some members along the way. They
lost a few.
Yeah, to put it mildly. But the Daryl Dixon-led squad has now come into the Commonwealth, which is the only thing that looks like normal in Virginia.
Normal with air quotes.
Yes. So they come in there, and things are almost a utopia. things are what we know as normal. The only thing that they're missing is the internet.
Pretty much.
But they're functioning as a great society.
Yeah.
And they're having political structure. They're having hospitals. Like, there is stuff here that you just haven't seen in the past 10 seasons.
I'll say it's as normal can get in this world when there's no electricity.
Right. But they're somehow making it work because
Well,
they do have some electricity.
They have some.
Yeah, it's the weird thing that's going on. But as you're seeing that this has all been a ruse that's been putting on by Pamela, who has been running the Commonwealth. And Lydia Robbins did a great job as the leader of the Commonwealth, kind of not tipping off everything right away, but obviously there was ulterior motives going on. And obviously with her connection in the political ranks, you knew something was going to be a little shady. And after her son was killed off and exposed for trying to branch out the Commonwealth and to take over more lands and really enforce their will on people, whether they liked it or not, there was a little bit of an uprising. And what she has done is more or less caused the Commonwealth to self-destruct.
Yep.
That she's now had this zombie herd come towards them.
Yep.
And the scattered members of the Daryl Dixon survivors are now coming back together, and everybody's in this unified front to take Pamela out once and for all. Where we saw last episode, Judith got shot in the melee that was going on when they tried taking over Pamela's estate. And Daryl Dixon was running in a frantic case to go save her at the hospital. We jump into this episode, and you see that the zombies are now overtaking the Commonwealth. And you do see that some lesser-known characters of the survivors, which I'll be honest with you, at this stage, I tuned out from the emotional attachment to them because I haven't seen them on in forever and a day.
Yeah.
So Jules gets eaten alive.
Yep.
You see Luke, who is the music teacher.
Yep.
He gets taken out too because he's bitten and they can't save him.
Yeah.
So
shocking moments, but it was like, oh shit, and then it kind of like went on.
yeah, I was like, okay, well here we go. Like the genuine reaction was like, all right, we're gonna start killing off some people. Great, because the one thing that this show has done, and I think inadvertently, but it's a fact, they blew up their cast.
Yeah.
Like it's an
It
oversaturated.
got real inflated.
Yeah, so you have too many people out there to really like invest time in that. I'm like concerned as a fan for rooting for a character. Like when they're getting eaten, I'm like, great, another one.
Right. Well, and especially there's just too many people on the main cast to even give screen time to, because I realize the show more often than not doesn't run an hour in real time. It usually runs over, but even still, with a couple extra minutes of extra run time, there's just not enough screen time for some of these folks.
Yeah.
That you could go 2, 3, 4 episodes before you see him again.
Mm-hmm. So while this is going on, Daryl is taking Judith to get treated for her wounds. He's messed up too, and it has this weird growing black eye
out of nowhere
forming. Yes, this huge monster bruise that honestly, as the show was progressing, it kept growing larger. Like I was wondering, like, did he get some kind of infection?
Well, I can't help but wonder if something happened behind the scenes, like during takes.
Yeah.
Where like something happened, because I don't remember him getting hit in the eye and him going, ow, my eye. So I can't help but wonder if something happened during filming in one of the takes they didn't use that gave him a legit black eye, because it just kept growing.
Yeah, like that was a weird thing that was going on. So I'm like, okay, if this is a side plot and he's infected, I'm here for this. Why? Because it's different. And I want to see something special with this thing. So if they killed him off, great, because that whole other show he's going to do, make it a prequel. I don't care. Like, I'm here for this. But during this time, too, he finds out that Michonne is taken off looking for Rick. So why this had to come back up, I don't really know, but I'm okay with it. Because at this point I'm going, okay, they're tipping off that Rick is alive.
They're reminding folks that, hey, we still have that Rick and Michonne spinoff TV series coming.
Yeah, so is this all going to tie in with Daryl's show? Wait and see. ...
I don't think so.
No, like I say, I don't think so, but I wouldn't...
Because the Daryl show's in Paris, the Rick and Michonne one's somewhere in the U.S.
But I don't doubt them doing stuff. YPAD, reasons. So that said, you have the other group of survivors that is running through Alexandria on their own little side mission. That's Eugene, Rosita, and Gabriel, because they're looking for Rosita's daughter. And she had been missing for a few episodes. They do wind up freeing her, and they do wind up making a valiant escape. But while they're climbing the side of a building, you have this moment that immediately got a reaction out of me, and not for the right way. You saw Rosita fall.
Yep.
And obviously she had her child on her stomach, so she wasn't hurt in the fall, but you did see that Rosita hit her back down on the ground.
Yep.
And then we're all thinking like, oh God, she's dead. Like there's no way she can survive because she's surrounded by zombies.
Right.
Then suddenly she comes up swinging an axe or some kind of
like
weapon.
some sort of sword.
Yeah. And is killing everybody around her. So
well, at first when we were watching, we didn't know she had the kid.
yeah.
We thought because you could see what's his name? I'm blanking on
Eugene?
the priest.
Oh, Gabriel.
We saw Gabriel had a kid, and you even said, "Does she have the kid?" And I go, "No, I think Gabriel has it," because you could see the tiny legs of the child on Gabriel, and I'm like, "No, I don't think she has the kid. I think Gabriel has the kid." And then she fell. She threw off the zombies like it was a freaking WWE wrestler, and the people were piling on top of him. And then she started swinging, and you were like, "No, fuck this, no." And then they cut back to her, and I'm like, "Oh no, wait, she's got the baby."
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, "Okay, that at least makes
Right,
somewhat sense."
Because yeah, they're not going to kill her if she has her baby with her. So, but I got mad because of the fake out because I'm going, you did this with Glenn, and I know what you're going to do, and I'm going to get mad because there's no way she should have survived. None. I'm sorry, but like when you're getting drowned in a sea of zombies, you're not going to be able to pull yourself out and come out unscathed.
Right.
Like it's just not going to happen.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, which we'll get to it. But like I said, Kristen Certos, who plays Rosita, I mean, she's always been great on the show. Josh McDermott, obviously signing off his last time as Eugene and being the reluctant voice of reason during this episode was kind of wild too. And Seth Gilliam, whose father Gabriel has grown on me tremendously throughout these seasons here. It was kind of an interesting dynamic to see them make the save for the children that the Commonwealth was holding hostage.
Yeah.
But to see what happens after, that's the little more crazier situation that's going on. Because we do see that Mercer is broken out of his jail, and now everybody's lining up to go confront Pamela.
Yep.
Because whatever army is lasting from the Commonwealth is surrounding her home in the estates. So she's basically isolating herself off. She's seeing the zombies are climbing over the wall, and she's instructing everybody to start shooting. Meanwhile, there are people locked outside the Commonwealth.
Yep.
That are now like almost
They're begging and pleading.
They're begging and pleading to get in there. So it's kind of an interesting situation. But when Mercer shows up, this is kind of the tipping point that he's now converted over to the side of the survivors. And like I say, Michael James Shaw, who played Mercer, the loyal soldier to Pamela, did a great job with this episode too, because like I say, he didn't get a lot of screen time, but he got enough that he made his presence felt, because he was saying, okay, we're going to go in and definitely make right what we did wrong.
Because he did not agree with what Pamela was doing.
No, absolutely not. But then you get the standoff coming because the zombie herd is still there. Because they did have the initial attack, but the bigger herd was coming.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to kind of give that emphasis that a lot of zombies were making their way towards the Commonwealth. Small group got in. Some were climbing the wall, which they never really explained to. That was something that kind of did irritate me, that they now were adapting.
Final 2 episodes, and all of a sudden the zombies are evolving.
Right. So that made it a little more weirder than I was liking, but it was what it was. And then you see the people of the Commonwealth are locked out, and they're trying to get protection, and they're not getting it. So you have this Rocky IV moment with Daryl and Ezekiel basically trying to plead their case.
Yep.
Like I say, it was more so Daryl, but Ezekiel was kind of...
Ezekiel was kind of running the show.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Like, he was kind of rousing, because they're basically like pleading, like, listen, you got to let them in.
Yeah.
Why are you going to let your people die?
You know, like, hey, listen... We're better. You know, we're better than this. You know, you want to be like the old world. Well, this is what the old world did, and we don't want to be like that, and blah blah blah. You know, like you said, it was Rocky IV.
Yeah. So it's kind of an odd situation, but yeah, you get the Rocky IV speech going on. Pamela more or less is going along with it, but then she kind of teases killing herself by going right up to the cage, and she's going to get bitten. And I did not realize who this was, but I had to do some internet search, Pat.
Yeah.
It's a familiar face, but it wasn't her son. It was the ultimate scumbag himself, Lance Hornsby.
Oh, yeah.
And she was ready to let Lance eat her, because Lance obviously caused part of the revolution that was going on in the Commonwealth until he was killed off. And before he gets to take a bite out of Pamela, an arrow shoots him in the head.
Yep.
And thus, Pamela is saved, so to speak, but she's immediately arrested.
Well, she ain't getting off that easy.
No, she's definitely not. So they were thinking this is going to be the biggest case to do her away. So she's going to be locked away for the rest of her days, ... and whatever's going to happen here, we now need to basically figure out a way to go, okay, we still have this monster zombie herd coming. What are we going to do? And I will say, this is probably my favorite part of the episode because this played right into The Walking Dead's playbook.
Yeah.
If they're going to kill off some zombies, they usually do it in some really cool ways.
Yeah, they do.
And Pad, what do they do for this scene?
Well, to attract everyone and get everybody, get all the walkers and zombies kind of in a group together, they hook up some speakers to the back of a cart or something. And they choose some music that is very familiar to a specific group of fans.
Yes.
And then, they start playing the music and driving, quote unquote, the music around. To attract the zombies. And Ken, what's the song they decided to play?
Cult of Personality by Living Colour.
Yeah.
So for a second, I'm like, CM Punk's coming out.
I thought the same thing.
We know he's a fan of the show.
He is.
So like, if they were going to do something, this might have been a time. Like, okay, I'm in for this. But it didn't happen.
No.
But you do see that they literally blow the ever-loving crap
Yeah, they do.
out of the herd that's coming in there that they allowed to come in.
Along with half of the town.
Yeah, like it is just sheer chaos, and it looked fantastic. So Greg Nicotero and company did an amazing job getting this all set up because it looked awesome. Even the CGI, which I know some people online were kind of saying looked a little cheesy. Listen, I don't care.
Yeah, no, if you want to see, to my knowledge, what is the largest filmed actual explosion in film / TV history, look up the one they did for Spectre, the Bond film, which the explosion they did for that one, to my knowledge, is still the Guinness World Record holder for largest filmed explosion for a movie or TV show. This one would have been bigger than that, and just the logistics of pulling that off, don't think they would have been able to pull it off.
Yeah, no,
except for CGI.
No, they had to do some CGI for this, and it looked awesome. It looked amazing.
Yeah.
So then we get to the aftermath of everything here. And then they go back to a plot hole that I kind of had an idea they were going to go to, and that was Rosita. And I liked this, and I didn't like this. So, Pat, I want to ask, what was your feelings when you were seeing this?
Confused at first. It was the nice. It felt like the Return of the King false endings. Where Return of the King arguably ends like 4 times before the credits actually roll. But they go fade to white or whatever it is, come back in, and it's all of the survivors we know are sitting around the dinner table for Thanksgiving because, hey, here in America, Thanksgiving is this week, So I'm like, oh, hey, they're having Thanksgiving. And then I looked at my watch and I went, hey, man, we got like 5-10 minutes of this left. What the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
So I'm confused at first. And then once we started rolling along, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because at this point, it's been revealed Rosita was bitten.
Well, they don't firm reveal it. She whispers, she's got a look on her face. And Father Gabriel looks at her and basically goes, what's wrong? And then she leans in, whispers something to him. We don't hear it, but Judith is there. Here's this whole conversation and has just got the weirdest look on her face that I can only describe as what the fuck is going on, and a mix of I know what you said without knowing what you said.
Yeah. So it is revealed that she was bitten, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And then she has a very, I don't want to say long-winded, but
it was drug out.
I felt they drug it out, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
Which I was like, because it's nothing against the character Rosita, but when you're thinking series finale, there's other people that this could have happened to that would have made more of an impact. Like it was Carol.
Yeah.
Or Daryl himself too.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to go there, like Rosita has been around there, but unfortunately, due to the big cast,
right,
she's almost been kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
But you do see that she reveals to Eugene that she was bitten. They have a very touching heart-to-heart out.
Well, and what is it? There's a whole bunch of the main characters there just kind of saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And they even bring in the kid so she can have one more moment with her kid before she goes.
Yeah. Because she's obviously looking more pale and pale as it's going on. So you know that the zombie bite is now fully infecting. Which, I mean, it's kind of weird how over time, and I'm not even going to say this is reasons, but I think with the evolution of the zombies, the infection is taking slower.
Well, they've never been firm on how long it takes. Even when season 1, when they got bitten, they were. I mean, Christ, I forget who it was because it's been so long since I've seen that first season. But there was the guy who got bit that they eventually left on the side of the road.
Oh yeah, way back when. Yeah,
way back season 1. But they were driving for a while before they let him go. It wasn't exactly bite turn, left him on the side of the road. So that's one thing, even with the comics, you and I know they've never been firm on how long it takes.
Yeah, so I didn't hang up too much about this. I was like, okay, we'll have the goodbye, and then as she finally gets those last moments, she's read her last rites, and then somebody puts the knife to her head.
Yep.
So Rosita is killed off for this.
Which we find out on Talking Dead that it was the actress's idea to have this done.
Yeah, which you know what? It's solid.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to do a series finale, make it feel special.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? For her, I fully agree with it.
Yeah.
Because this is it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be coming back, it'll be like on Tales of the Walking Dead. Like, you can always come back in the
Sure.
anthology.
Sure.
Not everybody needs that happy.
There's a whole journey her and, Abraham and Eugene made from...
I'd love to see that.
Because they started in Texas. In the comics, I don't know if they ever mentioned this in the show because it's been so long since I've seen their debut in the show. In the comics, though, I remember they very specifically said they started in Texas and made their way over to Georgia.
Yeah.
So there is a whole potential for some anthology series stuff.
Well, I think they should. I mean, I know we were super critical about Tales of the Walking Dead, but this is a way they could redeem it.
Sure.
If they want to do some backstories...
Oh, I'm sure Cudlitz would be down for it.
Oh, I know he'd do it in a heartbeat. I think everybody involved would do it in a heartbeat. But I think that's something they're going to have to look at, and especially if you really want that death of Rosita to really stand out and mean something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a big, impactful moment, don't get me wrong, because that was
Yeah.
because she has been with those survivors for so long.
Yeah.
But it really kind of took away from it a little bit. And then we kind of get to the situations I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big thing is, and I understand why they did this, but I still don't like it,
Okay.
is when you have the moment with Negan and Maggie, and will Maggie forgive Negan?
Right.
I was like, okay, it's a good scene, don't get me wrong, but I think it was kind of predictable.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is Negan is now...
He's so tired and he's ready to move past it.
Yeah, like he wants...
He's tired of having to look over his shoulder going, all right, is she going to stab me in the fucking back?
Yeah, which I think making him a redeemed character, I just didn't like. For me, I always would have been happier if he was like a tweener there.
I don't think he's necessarily redeemed, though.
Well, if he's asking for the forgiveness, like he was broken at the end of the scene. Like you could see he finally wanted that forgiveness for what he did to Glenn.
Didn't get it, though.
No, he didn't get it, which I liked. I really liked that because Maggie's like, I can't forgive you. You've ruined my life.
Mm-hmm.
I will move past it, but I will never forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was like, Lauren Cohen did a great job with this scene. But I'm like...
See, that's why I think he's not a redeemed character. Is in my eyes, to be a redeemed character, there's got to be some sort of resolution between the two where it's like, I forgive you.
Well, see, like that's where I think they're going to be going with the next show, which that's...
I don't think so.
See, I hope not, because I'm just going, like, we had the guy that was just the ultimate scumbag and such a charismatic villain.
Mm-hmm.
And now you put him in the anti-hero status, and it's just like... I just don't like it. But that's just my own personal thing. So I understand why they did the scene, but it's still a good scene. But I'm going,
yeah.
I just didn't like the whole, like, we're going to get forgiveness later down the road. Like, that's the only thing I just didn't like. And then we do a time jump to a year ahead, and Ezekiel and Mercer are now running the Commonwealth.
Ezekiel is the governor, and Mercer is the lieutenant governor.
Yep. So now everybody that survived is now looking for a future of tomorrow.
Things are looking good.
Things are looking good, and everybody's prospered, and everybody's moved on. And then you see that, was it Maggie or Judith was like, it's time to really move on. It's time to really do some things.
I think it was
Maggie.
I can't remember.
But it was Maggie. Like, it was just, but this kind of felt like weird, just out of place. Like after a year, like, okay, now it's time to move on. So you have Daryl now.
When you think about it, they got to rebuild 3 fucking towns.
True, but like,
half of the Commonwealth got blown the fucking hell. Hilltop got turned into a prison camp. And then Lakefront, the Lake Town people or whatever it is, got wiped off the face of the fucking planet.
Well,
so, you're not going to do that overnight.
No, you're not going to do it overnight. But if you have this utopia, like, you basically have a safe haven. Why would you want to leave? Like, I don't get it. Especially,
it's the memories.
Well, it might be the memories.
It's the memories of what happened, because she's going to see the areas where her and Glenn were and get reminded. She's going to see the area where it happened and get reminded. You want to avoid it as much as possible.
See, for me, I would just sit there and go, like, I could understand that point, but I was like, you actually have a safe haven you don't have to go break into old convenience stores to go get food. And
it also comes down to they've announced the spinoff show. We have to get her up there for a
reason.
reason.
No, I know. I
for
get
plot reasons. We got to get her up there.
I get that. I get that point, but I was still like, as a fan watching.
Logically, it makes no goddamn sense. But from a plot perspective, of hey, there's a spinoff show where she's in New York City. She's got to leave.
Yeah, no, it didn't make any damn sense for me watching. That's my point I'm trying to bring home.
It's like Star Wars. Oh, Anakin stayed on Tatooine his entire life. So then how the hell did he end up over the moon of Endor fucking burned alive?
Jar Jar stole his tickets. We all know this is the case. But nevertheless, you see that she now decides everybody's got to go prosper on and move on. So that sets up their move.
Yep.
You see Daryl is now going to go find Rick after a year.
Although apparently he's going to go to Paris to try and do it.
Yeah,
I'm listen, folks. I'm not spoiling it. Every time they've been previewing that whole series,
there's a big shot of the Eiffel Tower.
The logo's got Daryl Dixon in a silhouette of the Eiffel Tower in the background. He's going to Paris.
We just talk about it as what, Pad? Reasons. So yeah, he gives his final goodbye, and then he gets to ride off into the sunset on his motorcycle, copying Supernatural a little bit. Just the camera shots.
Yeah.
Kind of, in my opinion, that's where it was a little copy.
It's inspired by.
But yeah, like I say, so he takes off and he's just riding into the sunset as he goes. But we're not done there. We now have to go set up the Rick and Michonne show.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a shot of Michonne writing in a journal.
Yep.
And Rick is writing too.
The only thing we know is she is nowhere near Alexandria in the Commonwealth, because there was a quick line where she said, she was quote unquote talking to Judith, but she's talking to the diary she's writing that she's well out of range of the walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
So she's a ways away.
Yeah, she's definitely a ways away. And a new armor type deal too.
Something. I think the thing, from what I was reading in a couple articles, a lot of this makes no sense now, but it'll make sense once the Rick and Michonne spinoff series comes out.
Yeah, so she's finding his messages. He's leaving.
Yep.
He's now on some island. Mm-hmm. That belongs to the CRM.
Yeah, or it's near their turf.
Yeah, so he leaves the message. So basically, she's tracing him down from the messages he's leaving.
Yeah.
And they pull up on a helicopter on him and basically say, like, you're coming with us.
You're here. We need you to save the world.
Yeah, like, you have no option to come with us. And they always kind of harken back to his quote about, we are the living.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the show wraps up. So, like I said, a lot to be desired. A couple moves here and there that made some sense. The explosion scenes were great, but just for a series finale, I feel they just came up short.
Yeah.
I mean, what else can you really say about it, Pat?
I mean, it's like I said, for a season finale, it was okay. But in terms of a series finale, it wasn't necessarily as good. For my series finales, I want them to go all out, guns blazing, go fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Big battle, big craziness. And there were certainly battles and there was certainly craziness, but it wasn't necessarily what I expected to be for that. And then it eventually turned into a sitcom finale where it's just, hey, we're going to sit around and reminisce about the past, which is fine. I understand that some of these characters aren't going to come back again. But time and place.
Exactly. I mean, the same thing about how we had to really force, everybody to leave to set up their shows too. I thought was a bad look. It just didn't really make a lot of sense. And I get it, but still, like for being a series finale, give closure to the story you're doing and then explain why everybody left in your own shows if people really are that invested. You don't have to force it down on us. Like, we've been here for 11 seasons now. Give us that finale.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't. But nevertheless, we are not done with the Walking Dead universe, as we touch upon. Rick and Michonne will be coming out soon.
From what I hear, late next year.
Yep, Daryl Dixon is coming out
summer, yeah, that sounds about right.
And the real flagship show is Fear the Walking Dead. And
Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah.
Or A, B, sorry.
Yeah, so Part A comes out, I want to say February?
Something.
It's coming out super early.
I saw a timeline someplace of when this is all coming out, but it wasn't from an official source, so grain of salt.
Yeah, so we're not done with the zombie universe just yet, folks. In the meantime, though, hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about the Walking Dead finale? And what's your thoughts about the show in general ending? Give us your favorite memories. Let's talk about it, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Calling all movie buffs, cinema lovers, and film fanatics, welcome to the Silver Screen Savers podcast.
I'm Michael Gallup.
I'm Matt Sturdivant.
And I'm Tyler Sutkus.
And we're a show for movie fans by movie fans.
Every week, you can catch us discussing the world of cinema, including dissection of films both new and old, our takes on what's to come, career retrospectives of the most prolific names in the business, and much, much more.
Listen in via your favorite podcasting apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, and more. You can also join the discussion and leave suggestions for future content by writing to us at silverscreensaverspod@gmail.com, following us at ScreensaversPod on both Instagram and Twitter, as well as liking us on Facebook at Silver Screensavers Podcast. We'll see you at the cinema.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and there was some major Disney news that broke.
Major in all caps.
Yes, and if you're not familiar why this is major, Pat is going to break it down for you.
So this story broke literally while we were in the middle of watching The Walking Dead on Sunday. So this broke between 9 and 10 o'clock on a Sunday. Bear that in mind. Reading from an article on thehollywoodreporter.com where the headline it reads, quote, Disney shocker, Bob Iger returning as CEO, Bob Chapek exits. And the article goes on to say, quote, in a stunning turn of events, the Walt Disney Company says that Bob Chapek will step down as CEO with Bob Iger returning to lead the company. Disney's board of directors announced the decision Sunday night, saying, quote, we thank Bob Chapek for his service to Disney over his long career, including navigating the company through the unprecedented challenges of the pandemic, said Susan Arnold, chairman of the board, in a statement. The board has concluded that as Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation, Bob Iger is uniquely suited to lead the company through this pivotal period, close quote. Chapek had just signed a new multi-year contract in June, after the ouster of TV chief Peter Rice earlier that month prompted the board to issue a notable public statement backing the CEO. Iger even acknowledged in an email to Disney employees Sunday that he is returning, quote, with an incredible sense of gratitude and humility, and, I must admit, a bit of amazement, close quote. While Iger will be returning to his old role, the board also made it clear that his new term will be a temporary one. Iger, quote, has agreed to serve as Disney's CEO for 2 years with a mandate from the board to set the strategic direction for renewed growth and to work closely with the board in developing a successor to lead the company at the completion of his term, close quote, the board said. The answer to the question, who will be Iger's successor, is sure to be a hotly debated, again, given that much of the prior decade saw a wave of executives speculated about as a possibility only to exit or be passed over. Iger stepped aside as CEO in February 2020, handing the reins to Chapek, who previously led the company's theme parks and consumer products division. Iger continued to serve as executive chairman of the company, stepping down from that position just 11 months ago. Since that time, he found a part-time gig at a venture capital firm, Thrive Capital, as a partner and had been working on a follow-up book to his 2019 tome, Ride of a Lifetime. Of course, as Arnold noted in her statement, the novel coronavirus pandemic took its toll on the company, shutting its theme parks, cruise ships, and stopping almost all film and TV productions. It also, however, turbocharged streaming growth, with Chapek leaning into streaming by reorganizing the company to focus on digital. But his tenure has also been rocky, marked with controversies and distractions, from the aggressive campaign against Marvel star Scarlett Johansson that resulted in a settlement over pay for Black Widow, to Disney's response, or lack thereof, to Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Chapek has had to deal with a wide array of public misfires during his relatively brief tenure atop the company. Close quote. So a little bit shocking, especially considering the fact that, like they said in the article, he literally signed, it was a 3-year extension.
Yeah, he just re-upped.
For 3 years back in June. And here we are on, between 9 and 10 o'clock, because it was before The Walking Dead was over, on a Sunday that they decide to announce, yeah, he's out, Bob Iger's back in. To use a term from Among Us, this is sus.
Oh, it's extremely suspect. Like, trying to put this in perspective, Bob Iger has built the monster that Disney is.
He is responsible for them acquiring Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, most of 20th Century Fox, not the entire brand of Fox, but a good portion of it. Launching Disney Plus. He ran Disney from 2005 through 2020. So he had a 15-year period that is one of the best, short of being named Walt Disney himself.
Yeah. He is a legend on the business side of things for entertainment, not just Disney. Like, Bob Iger is the real deal.
Let's say just run through the list of stuff they put out during that time. It's some of the best stuff Disney's done.
Oh, by far. I mean, it's taken Disney from being just the amusement park place into the global icon on all forms of media. And especially, you think about acquiring the Star Wars universe.
Sure.
Acquiring Marvel.
Yeah.
And acquiring everything that forms into Disney Plus, which set such a high bar for streaming that it's arguably the best one out there right now. And everybody's been trying to copy it. In my opinion, that is the benchmark and legacy he's left.
Yeah.
So when he retired or left, you thought, okay, the ship would still right itself.
So he's literally wrote his legacy. There's nothing left for him to do. Time to move on and somebody else to come in.
Yeah. But to see how the former regime did not pick up the ball and go, and obviously it's a different time period with everything going on.
Right, and obviously Chapek and his crew ran into some stuff Iger never had to deal with. But
right.
Fortune and fire.
Yeah. But I think that this is a situation, too, where you touched upon with the misfires, especially with the Scarlett Johansson situation and other political rulings, if you will, in Florida.
Yeah.
Those nonsense things. This is a situation where the fact that everything was kind of adding up is really telling that they decided to pull the trigger now and get rid of them, and Iger steps back in.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of speculation going on with why exactly he left. And reading from another article on thehollywoodreporter.com, where the headline reads, Bob Iger returns as hero in waiting to save a battered Disney. And then a couple paragraphs into the article, it says, quote, one industry source says the Disney board had been divided over keeping Chapek in place for the past several months. His performance on the most recent earnings call earlier this month, according to this account, was the deciding factor. While Chapek alluded to the need for cost savings during the call, it wasn't until later that week that he outlined dramatic plans to cut costs, including a hiring freeze and likely layoffs. Sources believe the deal to bring Iger back came together quickly in the past week. While many questions remain, it seems certain that Iger will unwind the reorganization that Chapek put in place, which effectively moved the power of the purse from Iger's creative executive team to Chapek's trusted lieutenant, Kareem Daniel. Board Chairman Susan Arnold noted in a statement that Iger is greatly admired by Disney employees worldwide, which will allow for a seamless transition of leadership, close quote. And obviously the Hollywood Reporter reached out to both Iger and Chapek for comment, but neither one of them gave a comment.
Of course not.
Yeah.
No, Iger's going to come in and just basically reset everything. Mm-hmm. And obviously the direction was not going into place, like we touched upon. The Scarlett Johansson misfire, that was a very, very big public.
Well, that was ugly
Situation. Even more ugly was that bullshit in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, fuck that ruling in any which way, shape, or form. So when you have those stances and those instances stand out, that's where I'm going with this, that's going to cause the eyebrows to get raised and go, what is going on here? So something else, though, if I'm speculating, like, this all just built up and just finally Disney was like, enough.
It was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, like, just everything just kind of came into play. And then if Iger kind of alluded to he would come back in and rewrite the ship, you take that opportunity anytime.
Absolutely.
You take the legend to come back in and set it up, and then whatever direction they want to go in is going to be one that they have full faith in. Like, that's the big thing with it.
It's a proven commodity, and it's a known commodity.
Right. So you have to really kind of just say, okay, we're going to let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Set it up, get a proper successor in there that I guess all parties involved are going to be happy with, and say, this is the blueprint, follow the blueprint, and go. And, like, why would you break it if it's not broken?
Right. Well, and I guess this just kind of puts the bow on Chapek's career with Disney, just because there's been rumblings behind the scenes of issues and problems that have followed him for years, and people kind of questioning why they would put him in charge and what have you. And we weren't behind that decision, so Lord knows what the hell actually went on.
Right.
But like we said, Iger's a known commodity. You know, I think he'll be able to right the ship. This is huge for Disney. You know, and obviously it was huge for the stock because, again, from another article on HollywoodReporter.com, the article says, quote, Wall Street analysts and investors welcome Bob Iger back as the CEO of Walt Disney Company after Sunday's surprise news that the Hollywood conglomerate's former head would return to replace Bob Chapek. And experts have already started discussing possible strategic changes that he could usher in. Disney shares in pre-market trading on Monday were up 9.3% at $100.29 as of 7 a.m. Eastern Time. The stock had hit a 52-week low of $86.28 earlier this month. As of Friday's market close, it had fallen about 40% so far this year. Disney shares were up 9.3% at $100.35 as of 9:35 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday. And I know we were looking yesterday, just as stuff was going on, it was up at one point at like $101 or something like that, that it had rose basically like $10 or $11.
Oh, absolutely.
Or something crazy.
Well, you know he's going to do that with his track record. Like his pedigree instills that. It's confidence that he's going to fix this. Look at what he's done before.
Mm-hmm.
The only question I guess people could have now is, can lightning strike twice? I fully think so.
Right.
You're talking about somebody that knows this business and built this monster up. It's not like it's changed that much since his time away.
Right.
And the only thing he's going to do is tweak a couple things here and there.
Undo some stuff that was put in.
Right. And arguably make it stronger so then he can go, okay, I'm gone this time. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Follow it.
Yeah.
Because
the blueprint is there. If you just follow the blueprint, you'll be fine.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know what other territories he's going to go and fix. I think Marvel is pretty safe.
Marvel's safe.
I think everybody's happy with what Feige's done.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's the one thing.
There have been rumors and rumblings about Star Wars and the head of Star Wars for years.
Exactly. So I think
believe it when I actually see it.
Yeah, until something actually goes down. I mean, we can only kind of speculate what changes would happen.
The only thing I think he might change is whoever's in charge over at Pixar, just because Pixar the last couple of years, you know, they've had good movies. Don't get me wrong.
Right, but
they've had a bunch of them go straight to Disney Plus. Which I get is to bolster Disney Plus, and they're trying to get stuff on Disney Plus, but theaters are open now.
Mm-hmm.
They're you know, it ain't a case of like, oh, theaters are only open in like 3 states here in the US and 4 countries overseas. No, they're open all over the place. There's no excuse for it. That's the only thing I would think might happen is whatever's going on with Pixar, they might change heads over there.
Yeah, which that would make some sense. And I think he's going to assess every single fandom, every single property, and go, okay, how do we make this better? And then we might see some swift changes, depending on what it is. Pixar, I think you're right. I think, in my opinion, I think they're going to make
Pixar's fallen off a little bit.
Well, the thing,
like I said, they put out good stuff, but it's just from the quality it was a couple of years ago. It's not the case.
Well, it's a situation where you're only as good as your last film,
right?
And everybody's now copying what you're doing, and that's the one problem that But you have this in every single media,
right? Yeah.
When you're successful, everybody tries coming at you in some way or form and implementing what they see you do. And the thing is, can you still stand out and be the original, or are you going to let the I would say, I don't want to say clones, but but say your competition rather take what you do and make it better, and then do you bounce back and rebound? I mean, that's the one thing that you have to say, constantly evolving. Did Pixar do that? I mean, it's debatable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they stayed in their safe lane.
Yeah.
But I think if you really want to compete with other animation studios doing a lot of work and really driving their stuff.
Well, especially just Pixar revolutionized and kind of built, I guess you could say, you know, the whole 3D animated genre, you know, with ironically Toy Story coming out, you know, however many years ago today, you know, so as we record. So they kind of built that, but now kind of DreamWorks is doing it and Illumination's doing it and all these other studios are doing the same sort of animation. So for its time, it was unique and groundbreaking and you were the only ones who doing it, but now everyone's got the recipe.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do something with the flavoring to make yours stand out from the rest.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting scenario moving forward. This timing is very suspect.
Yeah,
though.
So Pixar, the Walt Disney Animation Studios, I imagine whoever's running that'll be fine. You know, Pixar, we'll see. I would imagine that might change. Lucasfilm, like I said, you know, I've heard so many times over the years that Kathleen Kennedy is going to be out in the next 6 months that if I were a betting man, I would have lost a lot of money by now if I put any sort of money on it either way. So we'll see with Lucasfilm. Marvel, Feige ain't going nowhere.
No, Feige's safe.
Feige ain't going nowhere. I mean, I'm looking at the box office numbers for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It's currently sitting at, as we record, $552,166,978 worldwide.
Yeah.
It made as much as Black Adam did in like a week.
Yeah, no.
They're fine. Feige ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, so I think the fan base can be breathing a little easier.
Yeah.
And be excited for what's coming. I mean, the thing is, when he leaves this time after 2 years, I arguably don't think he's going to stay.
No.
I think that he's going to get the
unless some shit goes on.
Yeah, unless he's like in the middle of some major project he's working on.
Acquiring WB. No, I'm kidding.
He pulls that off.
Release the Ayer cut. No, I'm kidding. Please don't.
Could you just imagine that though?
Ugh.
No, not the regular, not the Ayer cut.
No, I know, not which I don't want to see.
Right, but if they somehow swung that,
the regulars would never let it happen.
Right, that's what I say.
They already had to go through hell getting the Fox deal done and get approved by every country's regulatory board for economics and finance or whatever. There's no way they'd get it through if they acquired WB. There's no way. It's fun to think of and it's fun to like speculate on. But just from a logistical and from like a monopoly standpoint, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no that'd be like Microsoft trying to acquire Sony. They never let it happen because Microsoft would have too much of it, and vice versa the other way. Sony acquiring Microsoft, the regulators would never let it happen because that's too much of one company having a control over the market.
I still hold out hope for JL Avengers, the greatest comic movie of the
I mean, listen, if they can make that crossover happen for comics, I'm all for it.
If Iger pulls that off, it's done. You make a Justice League Avengers movie, it's done.
I mean, there's a possibility, seeing as who's running the DC movies these days.
And that's why I say, like, anything is possible right now. So if they have a business meeting and that comes out, it's done. It's a wrap. Like, you're never going to make a bigger comic movie than Justice League Avengers.
Yeah.
Not even a sequel will top it. I'm putting it out there right now. But this is still big news. Nevertheless, Bob Iger has returned. The king is back on the throne. And now it's the waiting game to see what happens with Disney.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about the big shakeup at Disney? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And why? Let's talk about it, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna go.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and I'll kick things off because there was an event that is going on with DC Comics that I definitely want to bring up to you, Pad. I want to bring it up to our audience.
Okay.
This made some big rumblings, and I think that there's a lot to discuss from this.
Okay.
So reading the DC.com blog post, quote, DC Comics is embarking on a year-long storytelling initiative, Dawn of DC. Following the events of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths and DC Universe Lazarus Planet, the world's superheroes have emerged with from the biggest, most devastating battles of their lives and are reinvigorated in the fight against evil.
Okay.
With epic new storylines, over 20 exciting new titles, superstar creative teams and villains that will push the heroes beyond their limits in bold adventures in this line-wide multi-event narrative initiative kicks off with January's Action Comics 1050. So some of the books that were announced definitely caught my eye in all the right reasons. So I'm kind of reading off some of the books that have been announced. So we do have The Unstoppable Doom Patrol, Dennis Culver and Chris Burnham.
Okay.
So this is coming out of Lazarus Planet. That's a big event that's happening. Like we say, if you haven't been following, there's a lot going on with this. So new Doom Patrol. We have a new Shazam coming out.
Okay.
Mark Waid, Dan Mora.
Okay.
And Billy Batson is returning.
Oh, okay.
So big things going on there. And if you haven't been reading Superman Batman World's Finest, oh my God, one of the best books out right now, period. They have announced about a new Batman Brave and the Bold.
Oh, okay.
Tom King, Mitch Gerards. Killam March, Gabriel Hardem, Dan Mora, Rob Williams, and more. And there is obviously, when you're talking Brave and the Bold, there's a lot of different elements going on with this. So who knows what's going to be happening with this?
Yeah.
They're going to have not one but 2 Green Lantern books. One is Green Lantern Hal Jordan, Marcio Tamika, and an artist to be named later.
Okay.
And Green Lantern John Stewart.
Ooh, okay.
So Philip Kennedy Johnson is writing it.
Ooh.
Artist, I have not seen anybody tagged to the project yet.
Okay.
So huge news there. They're also going to be doing a Connor Kent book, Superboy Man of Tomorrow. So Kenny Porter and Johei Lindsay are going to be doing this. And obviously, if you've been following what's going on with Connor Kent, this is going to be a book to watch. I really think they're going to be doing some cool things going on with this. They also have a new project coming out with the Penguin that Tom King and Stefano Gardino are tagged to. And it's something that basically the Penguin is now forced to go back into the crime world.
Oh, jeez.
By the government.
What?
Like, it's some kind of wild-ass thing that's happening.
That's weird.
So he has to not be redeemable his way. So, like, it's real crazy that's going on. There's a new book that's coming out with John Henry Irons and Natasha Irons. So that's going to be something entitled Steelworks. So that's one to definitely keep an eye on. There's a new Green Arrow that's coming out with Joshua Williamson and Sean Ezekias. I apologize if I butchered the name. So that's obviously going to be surrounding the mystery that's going on with Oliver Queen because he has not been shown since Dark Crisis. So definitely it's something to keep an eye on for. And there's a new Cyborg team that's coming out, or book coming out. So this is just like the start of the tip of the iceberg for this. So with this being said, I know that we kind of say there's a lot going on with DC, and I'm showing Pad the art for Shazam because it's Dan Mora and it's Shazam riding a dinosaur.
That's interesting.
Like, how badass is this?
That does look cool.
I'm sorry, Dan Mora is arguably the best artist in comics right now. It's not even close. And there's a lot of great artists out there too, but Mora's work is just absolutely crazy. With this being said, and I know that we were at New York Comic Con, there's a lot of books that were coming out as well for the Superman line. If you are a DC Comics fan, is this giving you some signs of hope? Obviously, everything going on with Warner Brothers kind of, makes you have a little pause for concern. But if you're seeing the books relining up, what are you feeling about this? Really?
They're just shaking up the creative teams. That's all it is.
See, I think for this is a good sign. I
really don't care. Like, they're just shaking up the creative teams on the books. Okay, and they're putting on a wig and some sparklers in their hands to announce it. See, it honestly does nothing for me.
All right, well that's fair. That's an honest take. See, for me, I think there's a lot more coming on with this. I think the fact that you're getting a lot more investment, and this is not like
if there's something coming from it, fucking tell me. Don't wait 6 months to a year to tell me, because you're already losing my interest.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything new. I think they're just getting a focus back onto the books, like a focus back to doing superhero books. I know that's kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, but I think now with some of the stories they got coming out, this kind of reminds me of like when C.B. Cebulski took over Marvel and took the shift back from being, so much about the movies and getting it back to the comics. Like DC has been one that they've always kind of puzzled around there. Like, okay, what's going on here? And, are you really getting into the comics things, or is this kind of shaken up and not going in that direction? So I think this is a great sign for the fans of the books, because right now there's so much flux going on.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this in the past too, that for the comics line, they definitely need this to go on, and they definitely need this to go in their favor too. And obviously with these new books coming out too, especially that Superman coming out with Joshua Williamson and Jamal Campbell going, I think that one is going to be such a monster. It's not even funny. They are really catching my eye, and I think for comic fans that have kind of steered away from DC in recent months, this is going to be something to bring everybody back. Like, I think there's a lot to be excited about with this. I believe Tom Taylor is also doing a Titans book too.
Interesting.
So I haven't gotten like official confirmation on that. I've been trying to dig up like when and where. But listen, DC is kind of making a step forward with their stuff. I think it's the time to get excited if you're a fan. I think there's a lot of possibilities going on with this, and you definitely want to keep your eye out at the local comic shops about that moving forward. Because, honestly, when you see DC is doing well, that just strives for more competition and draws out the best of the creators going on too, because when you have that competition, that definitely makes a lot of things happen at the comic shops, and that's something that always helps the media moving forward. That said, at the comic shop, since we're going to segue there, out via Comixology Originals this week, Ask for Mercy Season 4, The Circle of Time #2. So obviously this is a book that's got a very interesting buzz behind it. Richard Starkings and Abigail Jill Harding pick up where they left off from the last issue. It's a very interesting story. Now, I know, Pat, you are not familiar with this. There's a lot of sci-fi. There's a lot of fantasy going on with this. So there are a lot of elements that go on. I thought the issue was very solid since it is out today as we're recording. So I can talk about that a little bit. It goes in a lot of different directions, though. Ones that I was not expecting to see from the last issue. So it does jump a little bit. So you want to keep your eyes out for that. But they get down to the basic points of the story, and they definitely give you a lot to work with from this. So definitely thought there was some cool stuff going on there. Also out this week, Bloodshot Unleashed #3. Valiant Entertainment doing big things. Dennis Camp and John Davis Hunt are really redefining Bloodshot. This issue has Exo Man of War in it, and we have to remember it's a mature reader's line, so they're allowed a little more creative freedom to really get in there and go a little, I don't want to say go full crazy, but they get their chance to do a lot of stuff that you don't get a chance to really see. And I'm not saying that they don't get a chance to do this that often too,
Right.
but I think when you start dealing with characters, when you put mature readers on it, some people get very jumpy and are very like, I don't know if I want to read this. This might not be up my alley. This is something that I think they're doing some of the best Bloodshot work they've ever done. So I definitely would recommend that this week. Also got a double shot from Boom Studios. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. Now, this is a book that's going to definitely be drawing some buzz happening. Jason Aaron is writing it. Now, you know his work from Avengers, Thor, and it's Alexandre Tenefiki. I apologize if I butchered the name. This is a very, very interesting book. I can't talk about it right now because of spoiler embargoes, but I'm going to tell you this. It's very visually interesting. The artwork that you see in the previews right now definitely don't do enough justice to what's going on here. This is going to be one to definitely keep your eye on at the local comic shops this week. I think you're going to hear a lot of people talking about this. It's definitely going to go into a lot of cool directions, and I wish I could talk more about it. I really do, but I know I can't get into spoilers right now. So please bear with me and please trust me on this. I think there's a lot of stuff that you're going to definitely like about this moving forward. And also from Boom Studios too, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 102 is coming out. We do know Melissa Flores and Simona de Guillen-Felice have been taken over, and the direction they're going with this first arc, out of this world. Definitely hitting the ground running, not wasting any time, setting the bar and really raising it. Power Ranger fans are going to definitely have a lot to be excited about with this. So if you haven't picked it up for whatever reason, definitely make sure you swing on over to your local comic shops and go pick it up. There's a lot more recommendations out, so you definitely want to keep your eyes and ears out for that. And hit me up on Twitter and let me know what you're reading too. Because I always have people tell me after the fact, like, hey, are you checking this book out? Hey, are you checking that out? Hit me up early and let me know, because if I can talk about it, I definitely will talk about it. Pad, take it away.
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which is releasing today or tomorrow, depending on when you listen to this, is the 4K re-release of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, really?
Which I'm now learning contains the legendary 75 minutes of deleted scenes.
Oh, my God.
That has been rumored and whispered about for literal decades, including one scene where John Candy smokes and eats a hot dog at the same time. There is and I'm reading off a series of tweets here. There is one where the tweet says, "How have we lived in a world where John Candy didn't spend minutes talking about how Psycho ruined the shower curtain industry?"
Facts.
And so that is releasing on November 22nd. So it's either already out or will be out soon, depending on your area. So definitely give that a check. Some other movie news, reading from an article on Variety.com. Avatar 2 is so expensive, it must become the 4th or 5th highest grossing film in history just to break even.
What?
Yeah, so the article goes on to say, how expensive is Avatar: The Way of Water? Early reports have claimed the production budget alone was in the $250 million range, but director James Cameron isn't willing to give a hard number just yet. The only answer Cameron would give about the sequel's budget when asked by GQ magazine was the following, quote, very fucking expensive, close quote. Cameron apparently told Disney and 20th Century Studios executives that the sequel budget was so high it represented, quote, the worst business case in movie history, close quote. According to the director's estimates, you, quote, you have to be the third or fourth highest grossing film in history. That's your threshold. That's your break even, close quote. On the current chart of highest grossing movies worldwide, unadjusted for inflation, Cameron's original 2009 Avatar ranks as the top with $2.9 billion. Disney's Avengers Endgame is in the second position with $2.7 million, while Cameron's Titanic remains in the third slot with $2.1 billion. That means, according to Cameron, that if Avatar: The Way of Water wants to break even, it'll need to overtake either Star Wars: The Force Awakens at $2.07 billion or Avengers: Infinity War $2.05 billion in the fourth or fifth slots, respectively. Only 5 movies have ever crossed the $2 billion mark worldwide, unadjusted for inflation, while the pandemic has affected other movie-going films like Spider-Man No Way Home, $1.9 billion, and Top Gun Maverick, $1.4 billion, have managed to turn huge profits, so there's hope for The Way of Water. The original Avatar grossed $785 million domestically and sits at number 4 on the all-time U.S. box office chart, unadjusted for inflation. In the 5th slot is Top Gun Maverick with $716 million domestically. And of course, the movie does open in theaters December 16th. That is fucking wild.
That's insane.
Yeah, the fact that like the movie's not even out yet, and they're already saying, yeah, that's got to crack like top 5 all time to even break even. And that's the benchmark for movies to be successful, is like you at least got to break even. You want to see him make a profit, but you got to at least break even. Something tells me if he's given the opportunity to make, because I know he's already written the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever the fuck it is, films. Something tells me that if they do get greenlit, they're going to tell him, hey, you got to come under budget of what you did last time, because we're not doing that shit again.
No, you can't. I mean, that's just foolish to set the bar that high. Like, I'm sorry. Is the temp in the room really getting to that point?
I mean, for Ferngully in space, for Pocahontas in space, I'm not excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll be honest, I haven't heard that much buzz going on with it.
If it will, like I've said before, if it came out within the first 3-4 years of when the original came out, I'd be over the moon. I'd be like, oh yeah, hell yeah. But as more time has gone on, it's the highest grossing movie of all time that a lot of people don't remember.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was visual for its time, but
yeah,
I don't think the magic's there. And I know we've had some people hit us up about, well, you know, it's going to be better than you think. The script's here and there. So I know some people are excited about it. And like, listen, if you are, great.
Yeah.
I hope you are.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to do that kind of numbers. That's just insane. That's nuts.
Speaking of movie budgets, apparently the budget for the Fast and Furious 10 movie is fucking out of control.
Jesus.
Reading from an article on IGN.com, it says, quote, just like the Fast and Furious movies themselves, the budget for the upcoming Fast X or Fast 10 has reportedly gone off the rails. According to the Wrap, Fast 10's cost has grown to a jaw-dropping $340 million.
Fuck out of here.
Significantly higher than Fast 9's estimated $200 million budget. From the outside, it's not hard to see how Fast 10's budget got out of control. In addition to rising production costs and increased salaries for returning cast members, Fast 10 also includes a couple of new high-profile names like Brie Larson and Jason Momoa. Then there's the drama surrounding Fast 10's director situation. Longtime Fast franchise director Justin Lin stepped down from the movie in April, reportedly due to a blow-up with star Vin Diesel. Replacing Lin was costing Universal up to $1 million per day to keep production in limbo. Universal also delayed Fast 10 1 month from April 2023 to May. The Fast and Furious franchise has consistently been a cash cow for Universal, so it's likely Fast X will still turn a profit even with its enormous price tag. 2021's Fast 9 earned over $725 million at the worldwide box office, setting post-pandemic records at the same time. Close quote.
Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm sorry. No way. Like, what the hell do you need that kind of budget for?
I have no... Well...
The time travel because they're going to go back and find Vin Diesel way back when?
Well, the fucking production costs of moving those cars around the planet.
Well, still...
Something tells me they ain't exactly showing up to a Ford dealership in, Switzerland and going, yeah, we need one of your cars for a movie.
Oh, I'm sure. But at the same time, it's like, my God, man. Like, how much money do you need for this? Like, it's literally it's the Fast and Furious. Like, unless you're going to you've already gone into space, so
It's all the baby oil for Tyrese.
It's got to be Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Like, there's no way around that. Like, none.
It's all the baby oil.
Yeah.
Switching over to some television news, we found out who the new companion is going to be for the upcoming season of Doctor Who.
Oh.
And no, I'm not talking about the David Tennant little one-off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so reading from an article on Variety.com, it says, quote, Millie Gibson is joining the cast of BBC's Doctor Who.
Who?
She will play Ruby Sunday, the new companion of the Doctor, played by Nkuti Gatwa. Gibson is best known for starring in British soap opera Coronation Street in the series' regular role of Kelly Nealon from 2019 to 2022. Her other screen credits include the ITV drama Butterfly and the BBC drama Love, Lies, and Records, and the CBBC children's series Jamie Johnson. The BBC announced that Gatwa has been cast as the 15th Doctor in May, making him the first black actor to anchor the long-running series, though Joe Martin has played the fugitive Doctor, a.k.a. Ruth Clayton, in a handful of episodes since 2020. So she's a relatively unknown and fairly new actor. You go, like they mentioned in the article, you go to her IMDb page, she's got 5 listed acting credits. Including Doctor Who. So there's the Coronation Street, Butterfly, Jamie Johnson, and then Love, Lies, and Records. Relatively unknown actor, but hey, unknown actors could prove to be a great find.
I'm just excited to see what they're going to do with Shooty and this whole new universe. So I think grabbing an unknown actor and putting them in that role, I think is great. I think there's a lot of upside to this, and I think that she'll knock it out of the park, being the companion to the Doctor and whatever direction they're going to go with from there. Like, I think there's a lot of upside there.
Yeah. And then lastly, and certainly not leastly, we have to take a moment and pay tribute to Jason David Frank, who is, of course, best known for playing Tommy Oliver on the Power Rangers universe.
Yeah.
Debuted way back when in the original Power Rangers series on October 5th, 1993, in the 5-part classic, and you can't tell me otherwise, Green with Evil series, which was the introduction of the Green Power Ranger who was evil. And at this point, the Rangers I think it was like it started with like the 15th episode of season 1. You can find the original Power Ranger series on Netflix here in the United States. Might have to do some searching overseas. Not sure where it is overseas. But it's like so it's the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st episodes. So by this point, it's been airing for a couple of months. They're a couple of weeks. It's fairly well established. You know, they got their formula for the show.
Yeah.
And then in comes this Green Ranger, who all of a sudden is taking these good guys who are like the best thing going. They can do no wrong. They can win every battle. And they're getting their fucking ass kicked by this Ranger, who eventually would turn around, see the light, come to the good side, and eventually go on to play the Green Ranger and then also the White Ranger in the original series. He would be the Zeo Red Ranger and the Red Turbo Ranger and also the Black Dino Ranger. He would, of course, star in 124 episodes of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 50 episodes of Power Rangers Zeo, 19 episodes of Power Rangers Turbo, 1 episode of Power Rangers Wild Force, 37 episodes of Power Rangers Dino Thunder, 1 episode of Power Rangers SPD, 2 episodes of Power Rangers Super Mega Force, 2 episodes of Power Rangers Hyper Force, 1 episode of Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel, 1 movie, which of course is the Power Rangers movie, 3 web series, 2 specials, and then 1 short film, 1 stage show, and then a graphic novel. So the man has been the Green Ranger and a lot of people's favorites. I remember being a kid and watching the series, and everybody on the playground was, Power Rangers were the coolest thing, unlike anything we'd seen to that point as kids on television.
Right.
And everybody wanted to be the Red Ranger because the Red Ranger was the leader. Everybody wanted to be the Red Ranger. And then the Green Ranger came along, and all of a sudden everybody wanted to be the Green Ranger. There were fights over who's going to be Tommy and who's going to be the Green Ranger. I mean, you want to talk about iconic intros. Green with Evil is certainly in that discussion, and especially just iconic sounds. You talk about the Jaws theme, the Indiana Jones theme, and other movie themes, and the lightsaber sound effect, Darth Vader breathing. I would argue if you've seen even an episode of Power Rangers and you've heard the Dragon Zord flute call or whatever it's called, you can hear the sound in your head without even having to think about it. Like I can hear it in my head now, just thinking about it. It's such an iconic sound. and he was such an iconic guy, you know, and beloved by fans all over the world. So to his fans, friends, and family members, you know, our deepest condolences and thoughtful respects and well wishes. He's certainly going to be missed, you know, by the entire Power Rangers fan base.
No, absolutely. Like this is devastating news to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we grew up on Power Rangers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not as big. Well, you know what? I would say now that I'm reading the comics, I'm becoming more of a fan of the franchise.
Sure.
And obviously, our good friend Tom Craven from Off the Cuff Gaming, he's always been a huge Power Ranger fan.
Oh yeah.
And when you start talking about like big moments, and obviously the introduction of the Green Ranger really elevated that franchise.
And arguably took the show to levels it might not have gotten to. It might, hell, without the Green Ranger showing up and everything they did with that, you know, the franchise might not still be around.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. And obviously, you know, with Tommy's character going through becoming the White Ranger at one point and just going for the various fandoms, like the character has always stand the test of time, and how Tommy is even in the comics nowadays too.
Right.
Like, you know, he plays a big role. And you think about when we have seen him at New York Comic Con and just how excited he was to see the fans, and you hear all these amazing stories from fans about him making the extra time to really, you know, connect with them and just have those interactions. Like, those are the moments that stand out.
And just how accessible he was, just because if you've ever been to a Comic-Con, there's obviously the one portion in wherever the con is taking place that does the photos. There's another one doing the autographs. And he would do photos and autographs, but not in the usual spot.
Yeah.
He'd always do it on the show floor at a booth someplace that was selling Power Rangers merchandise or something he set up himself. Yeah. So there was that kind of like one-on-one interaction with like, hey, let's talk, let's take a picture, let me sign your autograph. You can tell me a story about how much you love Power Rangers or how green was your favorite color because of me. You know, that was just the awesome thing about him.
Yeah, like I say, when you started hearing all the stories coming out about those, like, man, that's just to see somebody that really gave that many people joy, you know, and to hear about this tragedy is just like it's devastating.
I mean, just how much he meant to folks of all ages, and you know, from me to you to, I know Johnny Gargano and WWE posted something about it. You know, Xavier Woods posted a thing about it because there was the one pay-per-view ring gear he and Kofi wore where one of them was wearing the Green Ranger outfit, and then the other one was wearing the White Ranger outfit.
Yeah.
You know, just how much of an impact Tommy had on them. I mean, the artist Boss Logic, you know, posted on his social media stuff that, you know, he got into Power Rangers and his favorite color changed to green because of Tommy.
Yeah. Like, it's just hearing the good stories. I mean, those are the memories we want to keep with him. And, you know, like I said, this is just a terrible tragedy. And to reiterate what Pat said, our deepest condolences to his family, friends, and fans all over the world. Like, it's just devastating, to say the least. You know, I always hate ending shows like this.
Yeah, and obviously it's been reported, you know, what happened surrounding it. We're not going to say it, but the numbers for the United States will be in the show notes of this episode, and there will be a link to a Wikipedia article for overseas, should you need assistance in any way, shape, or form, because there is no shame in calling and saying you need help for something.
Absolutely not. There is no shame in it at all. So if you need to speak to somebody, please speak to somebody about it.
And in the U.S., I know it's as simple. I know the number used to be long and complicated, and it still is, but it's been simplified in, I think, the last year or so, where it's just 988.
Right.
You pick up any phone, you dial 988. That'll connect you to someone right then and there who you can talk to.
Yeah. Man, I hate ending shows like this.
I do too.
I really do.
Kevin Conroy a couple weeks ago, and now Jason David Frank. It sucks.
Appreciate the time you have with everybody, and appreciate the moments you're in, you know, because you just...
You never know. I mean, it's like the saying, you know, tomorrow's never guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's not. So,
no.
You just have to take every day and just live it to the fullest, and just use that as a motto to go forward. One quick editor note. I did kind of mess up about the Tom Taylor. He's not writing a new Titans book. The Titans are going to be appearing in Nightwing 101.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I thought for a second he was going to be writing a new book to go forward. But no, as I'm digging through, the Titans there's going to be a new Titans team on there, because obviously Nightwing he's writing. So maybe it'll roll out to something. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of stuff happening with the DC universe moving forward. Well, we'll just keep it very short and sweet. For anything and everything that is the ODPH, ODPHpodcast.com. That's all for this week. So for the one only Padawan J,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Happy Thanksgiving for everybody celebrating. We'll see you next time.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.